This is Base Hit Ball 4.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Base Hit Ball 4. My name is Glenn Denigris alongside Scott Roswald, Alex Cashman, and Tyler Blumenstick. We're back after a week hiatus because a hurricane hit the Jersey area and three of the four of us lost power. I didn't. So I was totally fine and comfortable, but everyone else was, I guess, how long did you guys lose power for?
15 minutes.
Mine came back on Wednesday.
I never lost power.
Oh, you never lost power?
No, I didn't lose
internet.
power. I lost internet and TV
Okay. Well, same
up
thing.
until last night. So like 7 days.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, it wasn't fun.
It's good that we have it back and our first world problems have subsided. But
I agree.
within the last 2 weeks, a lot has happened with baseball. There's been a lot of games played. There's been a lot of games that haven't been played, a la the St. Louis Cardinals. There's been another fight involving the Houston Astros, this time with the Oakland Athletics. The Yankees had a rough weekend, and the Phillies bullpen continues to falter. But we're going to start with the COVID news that's been happening over the last couple weeks since the last time we spoke. First, the Cleveland Indians told Zach Plesac basically to get out after he was caught leaving the hotel. So he had to drive 5 hours back to Cleveland. He posted a big apology on Instagram today. And then the St. Louis Cardinals, who still haven't played a game in 2 weeks because of their COVID mess, just positive test after positive test, pushing back series after series. So they're going to have to play 55 games in like 40 days. It's going to be a nightmare for St. Louis. And this is what this season is. And because of all these things, it was announced today that Major League Baseball is discussing the possibility of doing what the NHL and NBA is doing and having a bubble playoff system. So all the teams that make the playoffs would go to one singular location and play their postseason. So first initial thoughts on what happened the last 2 weeks in terms of coronavirus.
It hasn't been an ideal week, especially for the Cardinals. Haven't played in 2 weeks. They've only played 5 games so far, so they're super far behind. But that's what you get for being irresponsible and going out to a casino. And then the Cleveland Indians also sent home Mike Clevinger along with Zach Plesac, who went out with Plesac. Wasn't originally caught, but then came out, I guess earlier today, that they sent him home as well. And both those guys were pitching really well for the Cleveland Indians, which was huge. So big loss for the Indians, losing those two guys in the rotation. But I'm happy for the Indians to actually kind of lay down the law there and have some disciplinary action towards their players.
Yeah, definitely. You definitely don't want teams to be like, okay, you're an important part of what we're doing, so we're going to give you a pass. Every player should be on the same protocol and be treated similarly if they break that said protocol. And as you said, Plesac and Clevenger, both really important to what the Indians do. And that's why it's so important for players to, stay in quarantine, stay in their hotel when they're not at the stadium, because if they get a positive test, they're out until they get 2 negative tests. And that could be 2-3 weeks, and that's 20-30% of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned, they're a huge part of their rotation. It's what the Indians are known for, is their pitching staff. So, yeah, if they had lost them, they're going to lose them it was at least 3 days they had to quarantine from the team. But it could be longer depending on how – it kind of seemed like it was up to the Indians' discretion when they wanted to bring them back. It's just stupidity.
It's just selfishness because this is a team, and I'll let Tyler jump in because, just because I want to. This is a team that's battling with the White Sox and the Twins for the AL Central title. So these games are very important, and one of the Indians' strengths compared to the Twins is the starting pitching, and you lost 2 of them already because of just a selfish move to leave your hotel.
Yeah, I mentioned it on the Cap Rack the other day, how the Indians already traded away Corey Kluber. They already traded away Trevor Bauer. Their rotation is built on these young guys that are stepping up and really coming into their own. And then now they just lose 2 at the blink of an eye just because they wanted to go out to dinner. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but hey, it is what it is.
And now, because of all this, MLB is deciding probably the right thing to do when we get to October is to have the bubble. And the NBA and the NHL are doing it. And since they've been in the bubble, I know this for a fact for the NBA, since July 29th, there hasn't been a positive test. And Cash, do you like the idea of having a bubble format for Major League Baseball?
I do and I don't. I do because it'll just kind of increase the chances that once we do get to the playoffs, we'll be set and we'll have a champion, things of that nature. But I also don't because I don't think that these grown men need to be put in a bubble, but they obviously don't know how to act. So I think it's kind of disgusting. I think it's pathetic, really, that they can't stay in their hotel when they're away. I mean, it started with the Marlins, who went to a strip club, right, in Atlanta.
That's the rumor, yeah.
All right, and then the Cardinals went to a casino in St. Louis. I mean, listen, whatever your opinion is on the virus, you have a job to do, and part of that job is to stay as secluded as possible from other people, and you're getting paid a lot of money to do so. And there's a lot of people out there watching you, looking up to you, right? I mean, just think about it. Let's put a Yankees spin on it, right? Say a little 6-year-old kid looks up and sees Aaron Judge at a strip club instead of paying attention or following the rules, and that little kid's role model is Aaron Judge.
He's going to go to a strip club.
I mean, not necessarily, but it's just a bad look. I mean, maybe he will go to a strip club. I mean, good for him. But I'm just saying it's a bad look, and I think that these players should be ashamed of themselves. But I do want to add on the Indians is the Indians have been the only team to do it right so far. They sent their 2 guys away. They said, we don't want any part of this. And maybe MLB could learn a lesson from them. I mean, they did. I mean,
they basically suspended their players. 2 of their better players. They basically suspended them. And that's how you got to do it.
And they've now missed more games than any Astro player.
You have to set an example for your organization. If you break the rules, if you break the protocols, you're going to get suspended and you're going to be without pay in a season where you're already not getting paid as you would over 162. So it's a shame that it had to come to this, but I feel like in terms of what we've learned over the 3 weeks of playing baseball not in a bubble, I think it's very important to have the bubble in October, because if you have everyone together, as I said before, the NBA hasn't seen any cases, the NHL hasn't seen any cases, and these playoff games are not, you can't just change them. There's a lot of dollars in that time slot for TV networks, these national TV networks, to have playoff games in prime time when they're scheduled. And if there's a Marlins situation or a Cardinals situation, you can't just have a playoff team or a playoff series delayed for 2 to 3 weeks. So it has to be played. So I think the bubble is the smartest thing to do when you get to October.
Yeah, I would agree on that. I think the bubble would be a great idea. And you can probably kind of do what the NHL has done, where you split it up into kind of 2. You send the American League to one location, and then you send the National League to another location. And then at a certain point, once you get to the World Series, you meet up at one spot. Probably in that situation, you can put it in a warm weather location or into a dome stadium where you don't have to worry about pitching it in 30-degree weather in end of October. And both the NBA and the NHL have kind of proved it. Their players, you haven't really heard anything outside of the first week of the NBA with players breaking the bubble and getting in trouble. Haven't heard anything out of the NHL, but hockey players are a different breed where they kind of only really care about playing hockey. I really thought it was going to be a problem with the NBA players, like wanting to sneak out and do whatever they want. And baseball players have proven that they really don't care right now, and they'll just do whatever they want, which is disappointing. So that might become an issue in the postseason, but I think it is necessary at this point.
Tyler, your thoughts on a postseason bubble?
No, I'm with you guys on that. Like, I think like Scott said, the NBA and the NHL have figured out a way for this to get done. No positive test. I think it was the NHL that came out today. Basically said that we tested like between 3,000 or 4,000 people and 0 positives. And I mean, if you can get everybody in a bubble situation, I think that would be ideal. That way the playoffs can go smoothly and That's pretty much it. I'm all for it.
Yeah, and it doesn't need to be a central hub city like Orlando is for basketball. I mean, you're going to have to get a lot of stadiums within a significant or a doable radius. So if you do Northeast, you got the 2 New York stadiums, you got Philadelphia, you got Baltimore, you got Washington. That's 5 right
There's
there.
no
So that
reason
could
to
be
do the
one little bubble.
Northeast.
What was that?
There's no reason to. I just had a stroke. There's no reason to do Northeast.
Well, why is that?
The weather.
Well, they play in October anyway when it's cold.
Yeah, but if you have the ability to,
If you have the
prevent
ability, but I think more importantly is to get stadiums within a 200-mile radius where you can get everyone together. So you're not spread out.
See, this to me is the problem. I don't know how you can ensure that it's a bubble when you have that.
That's fair. I mean, you can make like a Olympic village. I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of things to work out, and that's why it's probably good that they're talking about it now instead of, what college football is doing right now, just deciding now to talk about what they're going to do. So I think we'll see what happens with the bubble in the MLB playoffs, and we're going to eventually talk about real baseball during this episode, but just one more thing about the coronavirus and the New York Mets. Both important cogs of their team, Cespedes and Stroman, bounce. I mean, the Cespedes thing was crazy. Like, he just decided not to show up. He didn't tell anyone. And then Stroman accumulated enough time to get the service time to be a free agent in the winter and then decided to bounce. So I never want to, say, oh, you're opting out for the wrong reasons. You're using COVID as excuse. Nobody should ever do that. But it is a little suspicious, the circumstances in which Cespedes and Stroman opted out. I want to know what you guys think about
I don't
that.
think it's suspicious at all. I think that, and maybe this comes off harsh, but I don't care. I think that it's a culture problem that the New York Mets have. And I think that this is a huge issue that will continue to get overlooked by the management and the ownership of the New York Mets. But I think
until they sell eventually.
I think this is an enormous problem. I mean, this is a huge culture thing. First of all, the way that whole Cespedes thing played out, and I happened to be watching the Mets game that day because I believe they were playing the Braves.
Yes.
So I was watching the Mets game that day, and Brody Van Wagenen just came out and said Cespedes is missing. And you don't do that. I don't care for whatever reason. That just makes your player look bad right off the get-go. So until you know what the situation is, you don't do that. He threw his guy right under the bus. Then it came out that Cespedes is opting out of the season. Now he makes Cespedes look even worse. Granted, Cespedes probably didn't do the right thing if he didn't contact the Mets earlier.
He just upped and left.
We're assuming that's the truth.
That's what it sounded like. Is that
That's
they
what
went?
everyone
They went
said.
to it. They went to his hotel room and he was just gone.
Everything was packed up and gone.
But again, I don't like how Brody Van Wagenen just threw his player under the bus in the middle of the fourth inning.
Even worse, he said he's not here. We don't know where he is.
Yeah.
Right.
So he
And
could
that,
be dead.
right. And now you're
there's
putting
not
a
enough
panic.
information to make a statement if you're Brody Van Wagenen.
Right. And then they asked him after the game. He was like, well, we just wanted to keep you guys posted. You know what, you idiot? It's the middle of your game. And this is what I tweeted this out, that the Mets are so bad on the field. They're looking to get headlines any way they can. And this is the way they did it. And I think it's gross. Very poor job by Brody Van Wagenen.
Yeah, it was definitely poorly
ahead.
handled. Sorry, Glenn. But
No, go ahead.
Cespedes is, also kind of not earned the organization's trust. They paid him all that money. He's missed the last 2 years with pretty mysterious injuries. Like, there were a lot of different stories
Scott, I have
about
a
how
question
he
for
got
you.
hurt.
Scott, I have a question for you, all right? You're a free agent this offseason. I don't care what Cespedes has done, okay? You're a free agent this offseason, right? You're coming off a career year. The Mets call you up. They want to sign you. Is this where you want to go, to an organization where rats at your players? I don't care what he's done. You're supposed to have your players back through and through, right? So Cespedes has obviously had a terrible tenure with the Mets.
He's lost their trust.
I don't care. And I get that. And I don't blame the Mets for losing trust in Cespedes.
And I agree with you that Van Wagenen did a terrible job by what his statements.
So I understand that they lost his trust. He lost their trust, and I get that. And I don't blame the Mets for losing interest in Cespedes. But you cannot come out and make the statement as early as you did. You can't throw your player under the bus like that. Who wants to play for a guy like that?
I don't think it's bad on the Mets' part to, I guess, quote unquote, throw him under the bus. I think it was worse that they said something without knowing his whereabouts and if he was okay and if he was alive. I think they should have waited until they knew where
this
he
is
was.
my headlines
They knew where
point.
he was safe.
They just want headlines.
He did not show up to work. So in my opinion, I think Brodie Van Wagenen has every right to feel like he needs to, I guess, embarrass Cespedes. But the problem is you have to do that when you know he's okay. You know what I'm trying to say?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
and they could have worded it better. If they could have,
They just said he's missing.
Yeah, they still could have put out a statement saying like, Cespedes didn't report to the ballpark today. We're still like in the process of figuring out what's going on.
I don't think you say anything. Not until you know what the situation is.
Yeah, I don't think you say a word until.
Especially in the fourth inning of your
That's
game.
fair.
I mean, you got a game going on.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
If it was before the game, you could say something, but yeah, middle of the game, definitely wrong.
I mean, they have a bus that takes them from the hotel to the stadium.
Right. They knew this was the case at 11
Luis
in the
Rojas,
morning.
Luis Rojas, the manager, didn't notice that Cespedes wasn't taking batting practice. He wasn't on the bus. He wasn't in the clubhouse. He wasn't at his locker. Isn't there a pregame little media scrum where he can be like, listen, Cespedes didn't show up to work today? It had to come out mid-game, during the game, mid-game, and then everyone's panicking because they don't know where he is. And you can't talk to the manager because he's managing a baseball game right now. Tyler, what were your thoughts about when that whole thing happened?
I'm on the same page with all you guys. I mean, they should not have said a single word until they knew that he was safe. And honestly, I think that's just the last bullet point. Like, knowing that he's safe, I think, is the biggest thing. And I also agree with what Scott said about the trust. And also what Cash said about management just losing it and having a culture issue. I think it's spot on. The Mets have an issue. They have bad personnel choices bringing people in. Brodie Van Wagenen doesn't understand it. And I think it all starts at the top with the Wilpons because they just enforce this culture that is, I don't know, I can't even put a finger on what kind of culture it is, but it's a problem.
It's
and
just a losing
it's been a
culture.
problem for years.
It's
just
losing
not
it's
good.
losing on the field. It's losing in PR. It's losing in acquisitions because Brodie Van Wagenen's big trades are what? It's the Diaz Cano for Kalenic, who's out in Seattle, who's forecasted to be a superstar, and it's the Stroman trade that he pitched down the stretch. They ended up being third place, didn't even make the playoffs, and then he opts out and never pitches again for the Mets. Now he's going to be a free agent. The Mets aren't going to sign them because the Mets don't spend money. So the two major legacy trades for Van Wagenen so far, as in the Mets GM, are complete duds.
Did Van Wagenen sign Cespedes too?
No, that was
I don't even remember what his name is.
Alderson.
Yeah.
Sandy Alderson.
Yeah. I think Cespedes is done in Major League Baseball.
I don't
agree.
think after what he pulled, I don't think another team's going to want him. Why would you?
I don't think he cares either.
Cespedes has completely burned the bridge with Major League Baseball. I mean, you could talk about Van Wagenen and how he handled the announcement of where he is, and we don't know where he is. But, Cespedes did a terrible, terrible, terrible thing by just leaving and not even telling anybody.
That was one of the first thoughts that went through my mind too. I was like, if he really did just get up and go, like, he probably is not coming back to Major League Baseball. And even if he did, I think he now does not have a single shot to come back.
And he ended up saying, opting out for COVID-related reasons, worried about his mom's health. Totally fine. But then you can't be caught at a Long Island mall posing with fans and Instagram pictures being taken of you at a mall in Long Island. Like, that can't happen.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
As I said,
I think that's fair.
As I
can
said
go
when I started
overseas
this
and play,
conversation,
but,
you don't want to assume people are just using COVID as an excuse because, there are very real concerns about COVID. But, it's not a good look when you're in Long Island at a mall the next day posing with people. And then Stroman, he was all hyped to get back on the mound, and then out of nowhere, he was like, F it, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, and a New York kid too. He's from that area.
Now, do you think
was excited about going back to New York to play, and now he's just peace out.
The Mets are, I believe, 6-10 on the season. They got destroyed by the Nationals yesterday. They haven't looked great at all during the season. If the Mets are 11-5 and they're in first place, do you think Stroman opts out? If Stroman's on the Yankees, do you think
No,
he's like
he comes back if they're good.
he definitely is like that. This is definitely his thought process, in my opinion. And I'm not Marcus Stroman, but okay, the team's not that good. I've been watching them from afar. I've accumulated my time to be the free agent next year. Why am I going to put myself at risk on a team that's not ready to win when I can just opt out and just be a free agent? It's probably a good strategy by Stroman. And we see teams do it the other way when they hold a prospect in the minor leagues to accumulate that extra year of eligibility.
The only thing I do want to point out to defend Stroman a little bit is you do see what's going on in the league with the Marlins outbreak, the Cardinals and the Indians. Yes. It's definitely a possibility he's got someone at home that's high risk and they freaked out.
Yeah.
So
that's totally Bible. I can totally buy that.
But on the other end, it's also a huge coincidence that Cespedes did the same thing. So.
Yeah, we see Stroman opting out, but then we saw the polar opposite with Nick Markakis coming back. Mm-hmm. His situation is, he's really good friends with Freddie Freeman. So when he saw how, poor Freeman was doing, he's like, no, not going to take the chance. But he said he was watching the games and he saw how, good the Braves were doing and how much he missed it. And, he came back and has made an impact for that team already. So there was just something else, like if the Braves were in that spot where the Braves weren't playing well, which would have been odd to see, we wouldn't have seen Markakis come back.
Sorry to interrupt, but Judge just hit a mammoth home run to right center field.
Oh, really?
Good for him. He's absolutely on fire. Guys, he's pretty good.
Said he was going to hit 60.
You did. And what did I tell you?
You probably told me it was crazy.
No, you were supposed to screenshot it. I said I'd get a Judge tattoo on my forehead.
I do have that.
Would it be a gavel or just say
No,
Judge
I said that I was going to get a Judge 99 on my back as if I was wearing a jersey all the time.
I would love to see that.
Whatever.
But, yeah, Judge, the Yankees are up, 7-0 on the Braves right now?
7-0, yep.
After a tough series in Tampa and a tough couple of days in Philly. So they weren't playing well, so it's nice to see them back at home playing well. We'll get into that a little bit later, but on to some actual baseball. The team over the last 10 days that has really taken off, in my opinion, well, not really. It's not really an opinion. It's a fact. The Oakland A's are just incredible right now. They can't lose. Did they lose against the Angels
last night? Yeah, they blew it.
Other than last night, they can't lose. They had a 9-game winning streak. They're 12-5. They're up by 4.5 on Houston in the AL West. Houston doesn't look good at all. But they really definitely came into this season angry about what the Astros did, because the A's have been a good team the last few years, and they've lost in the wild card game twice in the last 2 years. So they're thinking, listen, we got cheated out of division titles. You can say what you want about the Dodgers and Yankees getting cheated out of pennants. The Athletics got cheated out of divisions. They came out, they've been swinging. They have 2 walk-off grand slams in 12 games, and they absolutely kicked the shit out of the Astros. So it's really good to see the Athletics play well.
Yeah, they're a great team. They have a lot of good players. Not a ton of there's not really a star on that team. Matt Olson, Matt Chapman are kind of the heart of that offense. But then they have a bunch of other just guys that do their job. And they have a great bullpen. They've kind of bought into that bullpenning theory. Liam Hendricks is a great closer. And then they just got a bunch of guys that I think they just really enjoy playing baseball. Don't really care that they're not the superstars out there. They go out there and do their jobs every single day. It'd be cool to see them win, to take down the Astros. And then they got, our guy Ramon Laureano, who was out there taking on the entire Houston Astros.
Yeah, that was great. Let's talk about that. So he gets hit by a couple pitches during the series, and he's kind of getting into a little argument with the Astros hitting coach. And then I guess the Astros hitting coach says something about his mom, I think I heard. And then he just booked it towards the dugout. And the Astros hitting coach, like a little bitch, kind of stepped back and let 3 players kind of like huddle him and protect him from what was going to happen. And the coach got 20 games. Laureano got 6. And that's just what you love to see. I love to see that even though there's no fans, the Astros are still getting theirs. Joe Kelly, obviously, a couple weeks before. And the Astros aren't playing well. Altuve's hitting 183. Bregman's hitting 224. It's hard when you don't know what's coming.
Yeah, they've been getting beat down, but Laureano channeling his inner Amir Garrett, like last year when Garrett took on the Pirates, just stormed the dugout. Alex Cintron, as you mentioned, just huddled behind his players and cried a little bit. I thought it was hilarious that Laureano was trying to teach the Astros pitchers how to throw a slider, walking out there telling you got to snap it, and like that's the reason that Cintron's going to step out of the dugout and start saying whatever he said to try and start a fight is ridiculous. I'm glad he got 20 games, deservedly
That's
so.
unbelievable, though.
It's
That's
a lot.
crazy.
That's a quarter. That's like what, a third of the season?
Yeah.
Yeah, third of the season.
Essentially. And then I'm honestly surprised Laureano didn't get more, but I'm glad that he didn't, because he's a huge part of that Astros team.
I think
He
Manfred
hits-
was like, okay, I got killed on the Kelly suspension. I can't give 8 again. I got to go lower. Was there a
Which is
ruling
fair.
on the Kelly appeal?
I haven't heard anything
I haven't heard anything either.
I don't think so.
because he's been playing. I've seen him pitch in a couple games since that happened.
He hasn't served suspension yet.
No.
So it's still under appeal.
Yep.
I mean, we all laughed at Cash about picking the Rangers to come in second. Rangers are only a half game behind the Astros for second place in the division. That would be something if the Astros missed the playoffs entirely. And they haven't played well at all, so they might. You know.
Well, they don't have Justin Verlander, to be fair. But once they lost Garrett Cole, like their
They have a
rotation
lot
is
of young
not
guys
good.
in the
Like it's
bullpen.
just
I was
not.
watching an Astros game. They were talking about their bullpen. I had no idea who any of their relievers are.
Yep.
They have a young bullpen.
Especially
Well, them and the Red
without
Sox
Roberto
are really
Ozuna
similar.
now.
Yeah.
I don't think the Astros though are trying to get under attacks. I think that's just the way they built it.
Yeah, but look, I just think that the way they're structured, where they both have lineups that are capable of producing runs,
Yeah.
but I mean the Astros have a better pitching rotation than the Red Sox do, but they both just have those lackadaisical bullpens, and games are going to slip away because of that. So I don't know. We'll see.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the Yankees. They couldn't lose for a long time. They swept the Red Sox. They won the first game against Philly, and then there was a rainout, and they had to move all the other games to Philadelphia, and they lost 2 out of 3 of those games, and they lost 3 out of 4 in Tampa. But you know, my thing about the Yankees during this whole like bad stretch, they beat themselves. There was one of the doubleheader games they had like 9 walks in 7 innings.
Mhm.
You know, their defense wasn't great. There was a couple miscues defensively. Their at bats didn't look great. I mean, I didn't see a game that they lost because they got outplayed. I feel like they beat themselves these times by a lack of, I guess, concentration. And in a 60-game season, that really can't happen.
Yeah, from what I could gauge, and I was talking to one of my softball teammates yesterday. They kind of, if you can jump on the Yankees early and get into their bullpen, where they're not bringing in Chad Green and Canely and Ottavino, and Britton, but if you can get to the Michael Kings and the Hellers and the Holders, you're in a good spot, because that's what the Phillies did against J Happ. J Happ couldn't throw a strike to save his life and was walking the bases all over the place. Phillies got out to a lead, and then they got into the bullpen and took advantage of that. Whereas in the games that the Yankees won against the Phillies, they got good starts from Cole, and Montgomery was okay, but they got into the strong portion of the Yankee bullpen, and once you get there, it's pretty tough. Zach Britton's been, from what I've seen, he's looked pretty awesome, shutting it down for the Yankees where they don't feel rushed to get Chapman back. But I would agree. They're still a really good team, but they definitely have beaten themselves in the games they've lost.
And here's the thing, and you hit the nail on the head. They need more length from guys not named Garrett Cole. They need J Happ to pitch better. They need Montgomery to pitch better. He's pitching well right now today. They need Paxton, who pitched well up until the 7th inning when he gave up 2 home runs to tie the game. And they need their starters behind Cole to go at least 6 innings. And they haven't for the most part this season, and that's really hurt them.
Yeah, well, I wrote a blog this morning about bringing up Clint Frazier. I was right in the middle of writing it, and I got the notification on my phone from the MLB app saying Clint Frazier has been called up. So I was happy to see that. But what I don't understand, and I included this in the blog, why, if you're okay with watching what J-Hap does every 5 days, what's the problem with bringing up Clark Schmidt to see what we have? Why? How come he's not here? Why isn't he a part of our bullpen? I think he could come in and do a job similar to what Chad Green did a couple of years ago. Fill that like 6th, 7th inning when you
They're
don't
gonna need
have
that
the
because
length.
Canley's out.
I agree. Like, I don't understand why he's still down. Like, we saw him face the Yankee lineup, the most potent lineup in baseball, arguably. I think so,
Yeah.
but arguably. I just don't understand. Like, why isn't he here giving the Yankees innings when he's capable of it? He has a nasty curveball, like absolutely filthy, one of the better ones at any level in the bigs right now. But yeah, it's just mind-boggling to me. I don't get
Yeah,
it.
I mean, and Happ can't be on the team anymore. He got destroyed by Baltimore. He got
Yep.
destroyed by Philadelphia when the Yankees spotted him a 3-0 lead. He just can't get outs, and at some point. I know it's early in terms of only 2 starts in a season, but this was all of last year too. He was
Yep.
bad in 2019, and it hasn't carried over and it has carried over to 2020. And you got kids in the minor leagues who are more than capable of doing better than what he's doing. So it surprises me that Schmidt is not up yet and Happ's still in the rotation. And what you just mentioned, Tyler, nice segue. Frazier's up because Stan again got hurt. How many more years do we have to deal with this? When is this gonna either? I'm at a loss for words with this guy. Like, come on. Every single year he gets hurt. He hasn't played an inning in left field all season, and he still gets a lower body injury. Like, it's just not going to work out, Stanton and the Yankees. This
Look,
is
I'm
like
not Stanton.
this is another Ellsbury, in my opinion.
I wouldn't go that
This
far
is
yet.
worse
You think it's worse?
because the amount of time that they have left on this contract and the amount of money. Yeah,
I mean, if it's a persistent problem, which I mean, to this point it has been, but like I'm not the biggest Stanton fan. You guys know that, but I'm not gonna knock the guy for being injury prone. It sucks, but like I feel like
Why
this is
can't
just-
you knock him for it being injury prone?
Because he's
it's
not signing
necessarily
up to get
something
hurt.
You can control. Like, you're getting hurt because you're getting hurt. Like, it's unless it's a routine based something, like to the point where
But it's always his legs.
he's not doing something
is.
right.
I mean,
He's
we
a
get on
big guy.
Ellsbury all the time. We got on Ellsbury all the time.
Yeah, but
So
Ellsbury
it-
stunk. Stan's
Is
had
there-
good numbers this year.
But he
Stan was
doesn't
playing
play.
well.
So he plays 3 games.
Let's not
It's
forget
frustrating.
2
It
years.
doesn't matter if you have
2 years-
potential or talent when you're never
two-
on the field.
2 years ago, well, you can say about the same about Clint Frazier, but 2 years ago, Judge missed a good part of the season, and Stan hit like 270. He had like 35 or 40 home runs or something. He carried the Yankees to the
Okay,
playoffs.
great. Congratulations. That was 2 years ago.
Okay, but Judge gets hurt every year too. Why aren't you on his case?
He hasn't gotten hurt yet. Knock on wood. And if he did, I'd say the same thing.
Judge just came back from like a year-long injury. He would have been out up to this point if the season didn't get delayed.
But the season
Over
did
s-
get delayed.
Oh, so
And I agree with you. And if Judge got hurt, I'd say the same things about how are they going to pay him if he keeps getting hurt. But he hasn't gotten hurt to this point this season. Right now, Stan has gotten hurt again, and he played 18 games last year, and he's going to miss half the season this year.
He's gonna miss more than
it
half the
doesn't
season.
look
half the season this year isn't like
4 weeks.
Listen, I'm not trying to defend the guy. I'm just saying I'm playing devil's advocate as I do so well. Half the
I
season
think
is
the word
only
is
30.
often, not well.
all the
Thank
time.
you. Half the season
I think
for
you
this
just
year,
are the devil at this point.
half the season's only 30 games. So if you miss 30 games on a regular season, like, yeah, that sucks. But, like, you could bounce back and still have playing 110, 120 games.
Well, this is why I think it's important to give Clint Frazier a shot, like a real shot at the big leagues here. They called him up today. If he's not in the lineup tomorrow, I'm gonna be pissed because we keep running Gardner out there. We keep running Hicks out there. Hicks can't figure it out. He tries to bat switch. He can't do either. Like, I don't know what to freaking say. Like,
I'll tell you what
today
to say.
he had a
I'll tell
swinging
you what
bunt.
to
He got
say.
the first base, and
I'll
everyone's
tell you-
praising him for his wheels.
I'll tell you what to say. Aaron Boone's an idiot.
He's not an idiot.
I hate that guy.
I don't want to get into this with you, but he's not an idiot.
I like Aaron Boone.
Well, of course you do, Glenn.
So there's a positive about Giancarlo Stanton's contract here. I mean, he's obviously not going to opt out because of the amount of money that he's owed. But next year, the Marlins will be paying the Yankees $30 million for the season, as long as Giancarlo doesn't opt out. He's only due $29 million next year, so you're getting an extra $1 million out of the Marlins next year.
Thanks,
You don't have to pay Giancarlo Stanton a cent next year.
Wait a minute. So the Marlins are essentially giving the Yankees $1 million to have Stanton next year?
No, they're giving him $30 million to have Stanton next year.
Right, but 29 of that's going to Stanton.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
the Yankees
so-
are making $1 million to
Yes, off of
have
Stanton. next
Stanton.
year.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's like collecting an insurance policy because we're not benefiting from it.
So
This is crazy.
that's the only positive out of there.
I think Clint Frazier needs to play starting tomorrow every single day.
I agree with
As-
you.
as
I
with
think
Tauchman.
it's time to give him a legitimate long-term shot at sticking in the outfield. Because
I mean,
we
would you say
saw
Clint
pop.
Frazier and Mike Tauchman are better fits on the Yankees roster than Giancarlo Stanton is? Would you go that
No.
far?
No, but Clint Frazier is a guy that can get up there and pop the baseball. Like every time he comes up, he just hits these home runs.
All right, so can I
He
ask
gets
you
these
something?
extra base hits.
Wh-
He's just that guy. I don't understand why he's not up.
Why
all the
would you rather Frazier in the lineup than Talkman?
I love
it
Tauchman.
They
See,
should
it
both
depends.
be in
I
the
think
lineup.
they should both be in the lineup
I mean,
going forward.
would you rather have Tauchman and Frazier in the lineup or Gardner and Hicks? I think the
Tauchman
answer is
and
right
Tauchman.
now-
Frazier.
Right now, Talkman and Frazier, yes. I don't think Hicks deserves to be on this team right now.
I don't know why he bats third. It's the one thing
That drives me
he's a
nuts.
drives me crazy.
He's a switch hitter.
I mean, Sanchez isn't hitting and Torres isn't hitting, but still, Hicks is not a three hitter.
Who makes the lineup?
We're gonna do this argument again.
I'm not in the mood for this right now.
I think it's Aaron Boone.
I mean, you're fine with DJ and Judge 1-2, and then at the time being, I feel like Voit can be the third hitter.
Voit should be the third hitter.
Ford can be 4. I mean, then Torres 5 or whatever. I mean,
He puts Hicks there because when they face a righty, he's gonna hit lefty. But I mean, he's gonna try and hit lefty.
Doesn't work.
I don't know. I don't like Hicks in that spot, but it is what it is.
I don't like Hicks 1 through 9. I don't. Think
I
he
don't
deserves on
trust
the team.
Hicks. When was the last time Aaron Hicks hit a big home run or had a big play? Like a legitimate big
You know,
play.
we didn't talk about this. 'cause
Home run
we-
against Verlander in Game 5.
Yeah, irrelevant. We lost.
Game 5
but-
when? 2 years ago?
No, last October.
Oh yeah. But that's not my
All right.
point. Listen,
Greg Bird had one of those too.
Whoa,
against
we
Andrew
don't
Miller.
say
He
that
got
name.
DFA'd today.
We don't say that
DFA'd
name.
gone from Texas.
Listen. I gotta say something. We didn't get a chance to talk about this last week because we weren't on the air. But Aaron Hicks, who's known for his defense, let 2 fly balls drop in center field 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that wasn't good at all.
He was bad against the Phillies. I immediately
Real
texted you
bad.
guys and asked, like, has he always been, or has he been this bad this year? Because I'd always known of him as
He's always been a solid center fielder,
defensive
in my
center
opinion.
fielder.
Yeah. He has the arm, which he's not at 100% right now because he's just getting back from Tommy John. But in terms of catching the baseball, he's normally very, very good. And, he's lost a couple in the sky so far this season.
I just want to point you guys back to when Hicks signed his 7-year, $70 million deal that I said that it was terrible and I got crap for it from everybody saying how $10 million
Basically $10 million
is not
a
that
year.
much.
That's not a lot
It's
for a
it's
center
like-
fielder.
It's exactly $10 million a year, but you can spend less money and get guys that are more productive, like Mike Tauchman or Clint Frazier. Like, look at these guys.
I
and
also
you're gonna
think it's
pay
a
him
very
$70 million over 7 years, and he can't
It's a
stay on
very
the field.
tradable contract, too, if they can find any value for
It's
him.
just this like allure
All
of
right,
a switch
all right.
hitter that just
Can I
is
say
freaking-
something?
It drives me nuts.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I can admit when I'm wrong. Tyler, you were 100% correct on the Hicks contract.
Well, I mean, the contract's not over yet. I mean, look, he can turn into like the next coming of who knows what, but like, I don't see it happening. He can't stay on the field.
Hicks is hitting 225 on the
Yeah,
season.
it's terrible.
Trying to see what he
Him and Gardner. Let me look at my notes from this morning.
I want to see. What he
Him
did
and
last
Gardner
year.
are a combined 15 for 72 this year. 15 for 72.
Yeah,
with
and
4
Gary
homers.
Sanchez is 4 for 40 this year.
Gary
Nine-
Sanchez is a good
9
hitter
runs
who's in a
scored.
slump. Oh, and
Somebody just went Yabo for the
Yeah.
Braves. Marcell Ozuna?
Yeah.
So in 2019, Hicks had 12 home runs and 36 RBIs in 59 games. 2018, his last full season, he hit 27 and 79 and hit 248 and played good defense. I mean, again, it's all about health. If these players stay healthy, they're fine. And Stan and Hicks don't stay healthy. And then you got guys, because of the depth of the franchise, like a Talkman or a Frazier or even Andujar, if he ever figures it out, that can.
This
Who's
is what
not
drives me
happy
nuts about
that he
the
got
Yankees.
sent home. I mean, sent down.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Ty. I didn't mean it. And I was
No,
just
it's
saying,
okay.
I wasn't happy that Andujar got sent down.
They just don't. There's just no at bats for him.
But this is the problem you run into with the Yankees, where you start locking these guys into these long-term contracts, like Hicks in center field for the next 5 years, 6 years, whatever the contract is. I think that they signed it 2
7
years
years.
ago. Oh, it's 5 more years.
No, I thought I signed it last year.
All right, then it's 6. Regardless, you still have this long-term contract where $10 million are on the books. They've done the same thing with Gardner, extending him the last year, about the same amount of money for the last couple of years. But I don't understand why you keep locking these people into your team when they're going to be essentially non-tradable in a couple of years. Like, if you don't want them in the lineup, Aaron Hicks is not a guy that's going to demand value back. But when you have guys like him that are blocking the way for guys like Clint Frazier or Florial, like, not that Florial's ready yet necessarily, but like, you're just blocking the path with these stupid contracts which turn into dead money.
But I think they can trade the Hicks contract if they wanted to.
But who's
At
going
10
what are we
mil a
gonna get
year,
back?
at 10 mil a year, if you eat half of it, that's $5 million a year. A team will take that.
But the problem is, when do you trade it? Because no
Now.
one's going to take on Hicks now for 6 more years, $60 million.
Well, the Yankees don't have unless they want to put Talkman in center, they don't have a true center field.
You'll let him go like die
Frazier's
in
not a
Detroit
center
or something,
fielder.
or die in Miami. Like, he's not going to – no good market team is going to pick him up. And if they do, it's not going to be for a 4th outfield spot at $10 million.
At the end of the day, they got to hit. I mean, Hicks has to hit,
the truth.
and then Glaber has to hit, and Sanchez needs to hit, and Stanton needs to stay on the field. That's just basically what it is with the Yankees.
Well, we're not going to see Stanton until mid-September, so this is a really fun experiment we got going on here. Bring up Clint Frazier, put him in the lineup, and let him stay.
I mean, it could be a blessing in disguise because we've all advocated that Frazier is ready.
He's good. He just needs to catch fire, and he'll stick with it.
I'm
He's
worried
that
about
good.
his defense.
Well, of course.
Is his
There's no
defense
reason
that
not to
bad?
be.
Can we please
Yes.
tackle
It's
this?
very
Yes,
bad.
it's
not
bad.
good.
But how
No.
bad?
The reason
I
he's
haven't
not on the
noticed
field.
it.
It's bad.
I mean, there was a game against Boston last year when
He had like
basically
3
lost the game
errors
by
in
himself.
an inning. Yeah.
I don't know.
So moving on, we'll talk about Scott's Phillies. Scott had a very comfortable lead yesterday. It was like 13-1, and then the bullpen.
13-1.
Then the bullpen just imploded. They still won the game, obviously, because it's hard to, even for the Phillies bullpen, to blow a 13-1 lead. But, the last game with the Yankees was interesting because they were up 5-1 and made it 5-4, and then Voit hits one to the warning track. Almost blew that game. So, Scott, what's the state of the Phillies bullpen?
Not great. Worst bullpen in baseball. They've pitched 31 innings this year and have given up 34 runs. Not good. 13-1 yesterday going into the 9th inning. Aaron Nola threw a great game again. Had, I think, 8 strikeouts. It was only at like 90 pitches going into the 9th. Probably could have finished the game, but since it was a blowout, Girardi felt comfortable taking him out. Nick Pivetta came in and absolutely looked awful for the 2nd time in a row. He got optioned to AAA today, or to the minors, to go to camp,
Does
I
he
guess.
have potential? Because I have other friends that are Phillies fans, and they hate him.
He stinks. He's got potential. He's got a great fastball when he locates, but the big question is when and if. They got him for Jonathan Papelbon, so it's been
Oh my
productive in that sense because they got rid of
I
Papelbon.
forgot he existed, that guy.
Yeah. He stinks. So he's gone. Trevor Kelly, who also stinks, got DFA'd today. They brought up Blake Parker, who's a veteran arm. Wasn't terrible for them last year, but he's nothing to write home about. And they called up a kid by the name of crap. Now I'm forgetting his name. Connor something.
McGregor.
Connor Brogdon.
Nice.
Who
Now, do these kids have potential to be well?
He has. What I've read, he has potential. He's got a big arm. We'll see what happens. But yeah, the Phillies bullpen stinks.
Is there any way of saving it at the deadline, or the kids at the alternate side, or is this just what you're gonna have to deal with and hope that you make the playoffs anyway?
I think there's a couple more younger guys down at the alternate site that I don't think they want to really bring up due to service time. But at this point, it's like you just got to bite the bullet on that and see what we got in those guys, because if not, they're not going to win anything. They're like, unless starters are going 8 innings every night and we're going to bring in Hector Neris and Jose Alvarez to close out the games, they're screwed.
Yeah,
it's
and
terrible.
that was kind of what I was going to come back at you with. You got to rely, if you're Girardi, on the starting pitching, because that's just the way the team is built, because you just don't have those lockdown setup guys in the bullpen. And there was a game against the Yankees, one of the doubleheader games. It was 1-1 going into the 7th, and Nola was pitching fantastic, and they took him out. And then that's when the Yankees jumped in the bullpen. Now, we went back and forth, and you didn't mind Girardi taking Nola out. But, as the season goes into September and the playoff race really starts to heat up, Girardi's going to have his starters go longer into games. He's going to have to push them longer than he might be comfortable.
Yeah, in that spot in that Yankee game where Nola came out, there was the right decision because of the layoff for the Phillies. The pitchers weren't at the same spot as every other team's, but Tommy Hunter came in and looked terrible, couldn't get it out. Yeah, the starters have been solid. Nola's been great. Zach Wheeler's been awesome. Jake Arrieta's looked really good. He pitched well against the Yankees. Outside of he did give up a home run in that game, I believe.
Was it to Gardner?
But he's looked. Yeah, I believe so. He's looked good. They called up top prospect Spencer Howard. He made his debut on Sunday against the Braves. He pitched well, gave up 3 runs. He's got another kid that's got a great curveball. He's going to stick around. Vince Velasquez has been okay. He's on the cusp of losing his spot to Spencer Howard. And then Zach Eflin is another good guy. So their starters have been okay. But there's going to be a lot of pressure on them moving forwards. And I just don't see the opportunity for the Phillies to go out and pick anybody up, because who's going to want to get rid of relievers at this point? They've proved so valuable. I don't see many teams that are going to be saying, hey, we got this bullpen guy that we want to give up. So I think they're kind of stuck.
Yeah, and I'll be shocked if by the end of the month there's a significant trade, because I don't know what team's going to find the incentive in a 60-game season to make a drastic change to their roster. Also,
Yeah,
with the
don't see it
expanded
either.
playoffs this season, everyone's going to feel like they have a chance. So
There might be a different type of trade deadline.
I don't think there's going to be a lot of sellers in this trade deadline. I don't know.
I think there's
Plus, ethically, can you trade someone and move them in the midst of a pandemic? I don't know how that works.
That's a good point. I don't know. We might just see people fill like these random little spots on teams, like utility players, depth players, but I don't think we're going to see any big contracts going over.
Well, luckily for the Phillies, the NL East is completely wide open. The Marlins are in first at 7-3. They missed a whole week. They're still playing very well, even though they lost 2 straight. They're losing in the bottom of the 8th to Toronto right now. Then you got Atlanta, who's losing to New York. Phillies right there. I mean, if there's any season that you can survive a bad bullpen, it's this one, because of the way the playoffs are set up and the way that there's only 60 games.
Absolutely. You just need to come – really, they just need to come in second place or have a solid record in third to make the postseason. And the door is open. The Phillies play well against the Braves, and the Marlins aren't going to play 700 baseball the rest of the year. They're going to, regress to the mean here.
Hey, you don't know that.
I'd love to see the Marlins in the playoffs. I'd love it, though. It'd be great for baseball.
It would be interesting.
How would
to
it be
see
great
them.
for baseball? You were the ones crapping on the expanded playoffs for this exact reason.
No, I wrote a blog saying one of the pros is getting other fan bases involved. And,
All right,
baseball
fine.
would
So
want
then you're flip-flopping an extra time here.
baseball would want a big market like Miami to have playoff games.
So a couple
market.
episodes ago, you said that this would not be good.
Yeah,
No,
he
time
also
out. Can we walk through this? Can we walk through this real quick?
Did I
Yeah,
contradict myself? I don't even remember what I said.
Yeah, a couple episodes ago, we were talking about the expanded format. I think it was before even a deal happened, and you were like, "No, I don't want to see the teams like the Marlins and the Tigers like sneak into the playoffs." So then you said that. Then
I don't
you
want them
went
to
and you
sneak
wrote
into the
blog.
playoffs if they don't deserve it. But if they're, 35 and 15, I'm not saying that's what they're going to be, but and they make the playoffs, then they deserve it.
Well, if they're 35
they're
and
under
15, they have to
500,
play
then-
10 more games, Glenn.
I don't know, man.
Be the difference.
If a team deserves to make the playoffs, then they make the playoffs.
I
just
agree
don't
with
want
you. That's
teams
how it's
that-
structured.
I don't want like the NBA where bad teams make the playoffs. If the Marlins are above 500 and they play good baseball like they have been, then they deserve it, and good for them.
Yeah,
That's
his
just
Why is
argument
Cash
is
laughing?
if they
I
go
don't like
20
Cash's
against 40.
stupid face. He's making this stupid, annoying face. I want to punch my screen. Why are you laughing at me, Cash?
I think that's obvious, man. I mean, come on. You just totally backtracked. I love it.
Oh, because you never backtracked?
Oh, I didn't say
No, he
I
just
didn't.
plays the devil's advocate.
He just plays the devil. Every time he gets beaten in an argument, he's like, I'm just being devil's advocate.
I don't get beat in arguments. I'm always right.
Yeah.
And when I'm wrong, I can admit.
Let's see. What we got going. I'm looking through the standings here. The NL West, the Rockies are playing very well. I think Charlie Blackmon's hitting 480. Do you think he hits
it's
400 at the end of the
crazy.
season?
484.
hit-
He's
he
on a
needs
14-game hit streak.
360 the rest of the way.
That's
get to 400.
fair for him.
Can you imagine he beats Joe DiMaggio's record
The
in
hitting
a
streak,
60-game season? That means he would have hit safely in
90,
literally the entire season,
100%
every
of
single
the
game.
season.
Close.
Do you think
Which
he
would
hits
be nuts.
400?
Probably not. I think it's hard.
Do you think LeMahieu hits 400?
No, I just think it's really hard to do that.
It's hard to hit 300.
We're going to have more guys hitting 350. I mean,
Mhm.
we never have guys hit 350, so I think we'll have a couple this year, maybe a handful. But getting to 400 is so difficult. I know it's only 60 games, but people have had 400 average stretches of 60 games before, but when the whole season is 60 games and that's how your mindset is, I think that's where it changes. I think that's why it makes it so tough. Because in your brain, you have to do it for the course of a season, as opposed to just getting hot for a third of the season or a little bit more than a third. I don't know.
I hope he does because then we get to have
He's
this
got
debate.
31 hits in 2 weeks.
It's
It's
very
pretty
good.
nuts. But that's just amazing. You can't do much better than that. So he's gonna regress. I don't know.
Yeah, he might regress from 4. What is he hitting?
484.
So he might regress from 484 to 420. That's still a regression.
Well, he's 1 for 1 right now, so he's hitting 492.
It's stupid. Stupid. Imagine being that locked in. I've never been
Guy's
that locked in my
always
life.
No.
always been a great hitter.
I'll have
So
you know
they're
I'm
in
hitting
first. They're
500
in first
through,
place of the
9 games.
NL West. They're a half game above the Dodgers. You got to think the Dodgers are eventually gonna jump Colorado. San Diego's playing very well. I think San Diego has a very bright future.
I
You got
agree.
Tatis, you got Machado.
I think
Yeah,
they're one of the
Hosmer.
biggest stories this year.
Yeah, I think they're gonna. I think if they sneak in, they're a team that can upset some teams in the National League playoffs. All right, we got about 5 minutes to go. So if Cash wants to do his hater of the week, who he hates this week, and if we can do winners and losers, we can wrap this thing
I
up.
mean, yeah, my most hated guy of the week is really the entire Astros team, but I've done that before. So we're just going with that pitching coach, whose
Hitting
name
coach.
doesn't even deserve to be said. Guy's a
Like
loser.
Cintron.
Okay, well, I
There's a
still think
funny
he's
quote
loser.
from. There's a funny quote. It was like, "I'm sorry, I charged him because he's a loser" or something like that.
Yeah, he said,
Yeah,
"I'm
that's
not
what
sorry. I don't feel bad
Mariano
for
said.
charging him. I feel bad because he's a loser," or something like that.
It's amazing.
Guy's a
Oh my
savage.
god, it's so funny. You think they just you think the Astros go into the locker room and be like, "This is just a nightmare," like everything,
No,
or do you
They're-
think they just don't care?
they don't care because they got away with it. They want a ring.
I think they're all so scared. They're all just shaking in their boots. They all have the yips at the plate, except for
It's
Correa
awesome.
because he's a psychopath. But I hope
I
he
hate him.
eventually fights somebody in an octagon because he wants to so bad. I just hope he fights the wrong person and then he just never talks about
It's
fighting.
crazy
ever
to
again.
me that like Altuve's struggles have taken to the field too. Dude had 3 errors in one inning.
Do you guys
last
see
week.
Astros Twitter? Do you guys see
The
like how they
Astros
defend
shame
them?
tour. That's the best Twitter
No,
account.
no.
on
The
Twitter.
Astros fans that like defend their guys.
What is there
Have
to
you guys seen
defend?
these guys?
They're all
What is
nuts.
there
I
to
usually just
defend?
scroll right past it.
I think Carabas on Barstool tweeted something like Correa is soft after the Kelly incident. And then some Astros fan clapped back. He's like, he's not soft. And his reasoning was that he hosts an MMA podcast.
I saw that. I did see that.
Oh, my God. I thought that was the funniest thing.
Just like we're all great at baseball because we have a baseball podcast.
It's stupid.
It lines up.
Yeah. we should be pros because
We
have a
should be in the big
podcast.
leagues. We should go play for the Indians or the Cardinals because
Cash,
we
you got
do
a
our
winner?
job.
A winner?
You got a winner?
Yeah, I think it's Stroman for getting out of the Mets. To be honest,
Can't blame him. Can't blame him.
I like it.
All right. Tyler, winners and losers.
My winners are going to be the Nationals for putting a pounding on the Mets the other day. They're getting hot. I think they got Juan Soto back, and I feel like it kind of energized the entire offense because now they're just scoring and scoring and scoring and scoring, and they have the pitching staff to do it. I mean, I feel like they do have the strongest pitching staff in baseball now. I mean, at least starting rotation or the front end. I mean, they haven't had any of their big name guys opt out. I mean, they're surging at the moment. And we're going to go with losers. The Cardinals, I guess.
They just don't get it.
They're not losing
Haven't
because
played
they're
baseball.
not playing, but it just sucks. Like, they're the losers. And we can throw Plesac and Clevenger in there too.
Perfect.
Basically,
That's got
all
what-
right, the new rule from now on is if
Any COVID-related incident is a loser.
if you do something stupid related to the virus, you are automatically the BASEHITBALL4 loser of the week. It's from somebody. Someone's got to
I
make
I think
like
it.
that's fair. I think that's
I
an
like it.
executive decision. I like that a lot.
All right.
Go ahead, Scott.
Loser of
so
2
my
weeks,
winner-
actually, 'cause you have to quarantine.
Yes. So my winner of the last 2 weeks is Charlie Blackmon on a 14-game hitting streak. As we mentioned, hitting 484. Guy matches the ball. My loser of the week, live as we go, is the Phillies bullpen as they're
Oh no, what's happening now?
absolutely, shit in the bed again against the Marlins or against the Orioles here. Tommy Hunter is now giving up 2 runs here in the 7th inning, and the Phillies are losing 5-3. So my loser of the week is the Phillies bullpen because they all suck.
It's a shame. It's a total shame. My loser is Gary Sanchez. I mean, come on. Like, I've never seen somebody struggle this badly. Like, it's just
How
an
many hits does he
automatic
have?
out. I think he has 4 hits this season
4.
out of
Good.
42 at bats, I believe, or something around there.
Great.
Not good at all.
Fun.
And he lost the game, the first game against Tampa, because there was a pass ball with Ottavino pitching, led to the only run of the game in the bottom of the 8th. Every time there's 2 strikes,
wasn't
the
that
slider
scored a
down the
wild
way.
pitch?
Was it a wild pitch?
Yeah.
It might have been statistically, but you still got to catch the ball. That's been a problem with Sanchez since he's came up.
I don't know. I thought he's
catching
playing pretty
balls.
well behind the plate this season.
You devil's advocate again?
No, I'm
I agree
serious.
with that. I think he's been doing all right. He's going to have a mistake.
Listen, regardless.
He's gonna start hitting. He's too good of a hitter not to.
Slider down the way every single time. He can't hit right now. He needs to get it started because the Yankees need him because they don't have Austin Romine as a safety net this year, and Higashioka's hurt. So they have, what's his name? The backup catcher. I don't even know.
Chris Iannetta.
Chris Iannetta.
Mhm.
No, it's somebody else, isn't it?
Eric Kratz.
It's Eric Kratz.
Him too.
And he's not going to hit. So my winner is a different Yankee. Tanaka gets drilled in the head 4th of July, misses a couple weeks, comes back. He's pitching fantastic. He was really good in his 5 innings against Tampa, 5 hits, no runs, I think 1 hit. He's still on a pitch limit, trying to get him his work back up, but he's the number 2. And after Cole, they need someone. And so far it's not been Paxton. So Tanaka's pitched very well. And, I'm a very big Tanaka guy. I think he comes up when it matters the most. And I think it's going to matter this season because the Yankees don't have Severino. He's out for the year, and they need someone after Cole. So I think Tanaka is my winner this week.
All right.
So do we have any final
There it
thoughts before
is.
I say goodbye?
Let's go Yankees for the first
Yeah,
time
let's go Yankees.
on this podcast.
Don't go to strip clubs. Don't go to
strip clubs.
casinos.
Don't go to casinos.
Don't go out to dinner with your friends. Go to the hotel and play baseball.
Yeah. I mean,
There you go.
you can bring your PlayStation to the hotel. You can hook up. You can play Fortnite. You don't need to go out. There's nothing open. Nothing open.
Yeah, listen to us. Listen to us.
Yeah,
MLB
we're the
players.
professionals. We know what we're talking about here at Base Hit Ball 4. That'll just about do it this week. Tune in next week for another edition of Base Hit Ball 4. My name is Glenn Denegris, alongside Scott Roswald, Alex Cashman, and Tyler Boomenstick. We'll see you next time, and stay inside and wear a mask.